Welcome to the first Café Muse of 2026. My name is Majda Gama, and I'm co-hosting tonight's program along with Ellen Cole. Our beloved and returning open mic feature will be guided tonight by our co-host Luther Jett. If you've signed up for the open mic portion, please understand that we ask the poem to be written by you and not AI generated. Open mic readers are also limited to one poem, one page. We will try to give as many the chance to read as we can, but there will probably be some time constraints. Thank you, Ellen and Luther, for kicking off the year with me. Thank you to our audience for joining us here at the Writers Center and also online. We have a very dedicated online audience. Thank you. So I'd also like to thank the Writers Center for having us so that we can gather in community. Tonight's featured poets are two local legends, Henry Crawford, I mean that very seriously, Henry Crawford and Greg McBride. Both are generous contributors to the poetry ecology of the region, and I'm thrilled to have them here together to share the breadth and depth of their writing. For our guests here at the Writers Center, the evening began with the beautiful classical guitar music of Michael Davis. Thank you, Michael. Café Muse will return to an all-online format February 2nd, Monday, February 2nd, 2026, 7:15. With the poetry starting at 7:30, we will be featuring poets Diane Seuss and Randall France de Bravo in February, so you won't want to miss that night. That's not a typo, that is definitely Diane Seuss, who will be joining us for Café Muse in February, and Randall France de Bravo, who is also wonderful and has local roots. Sign up to the newsletter for the link, spread the news. We hope to see you there for what will be a lyrical and dynamic night. Before I begin the program, just a quick housekeeping message. Please do silence your phones or place them in poetry mode. Our first poet tonight is Henry Crawford. Henry is the author of 3 collections of poetry: American Software, CW Books; The Binary Planet, WordWorks; Screams, which I have right here; Broadstone Books, out in 2025. Henry's poem, The Fruits of Famine, won first prize in the 2019 World Food Poetry Competition. His work has been published in Boulevard, Coppernickel, Rattle, the Southern Humanities Review, and many others. He is a 2-time finalist for the Wurgle Flomp Humor Poetry Contest. He was nominated for the 2022 Riesling Award by the Science Fiction Poetry Association. He's a longtime co-host of the Café Muse Literary Salon online and producer of Poets versus the Pandemic during the COVID years. He writes on Substack at everydaypoet.substack.com. I've had the great privilege of writing with Henry Crawford for 16 years. For me, there is no greater translator of our modern age than Henry. His poetry has always dared to use language a little differently. He challenges punctuation, lineation, and he dialogues with computer languages in such a way that he achieves a multilingual text with the screams that reflect our lives. But the poems and screams are not cut and paste observations. They beat with an animal heart. They feel with the full range of human history and the full spectrum of human metaphors. One of my favorite poems in the book, The Origin Story of Night, is a marvel of compression and pacing. The opening line, "It's difficult to claim the sun is real," is so startling because something so established as truth should not be up for debate. But in the screen age we live in, facts are subjective, and through large language models like ChatGPT are mirrored to us as truth. That's the irony of our screens. And because Henry is so deft with words, his poems are often deeply wry, sarcastic, and funny as well. Henry reminds us in poems like The Clown Car Memorandum and NWDC Barbecue that humor and satire are also part of the poetry toolkit. As writers, now is certainly the time to use all of these tools. Please help me in welcoming the gifted poet Henry Crawford to Café Muse.
Well, thank you, Majda. What a generous introduction. You have embarrassed me, but you're allowed to embarrass me because we have, in fact, been writing together for, 10 years, long time. But I want to thank the Writers Center, and I'm going to thank Café Muse for giving me this opportunity. I want to thank Broadstone Books for screens, and I want to thank most of all you folks for coming on out and supporting poetry tonight on this cold January night. Now I'm going to start with a couple of poems from the first section of the book, which deals with technology and artificial intelligence and presents a cautionary tale to those technologies. The first poem is titled after the day after April Fool's Day. This is April 2nd. Heroin, all morning. Floral, helium buds of remanufactured sunlight. Skip the ads. Your video will play in 5 blockchain dreams. Smooth this getaway. Beachy clean. All dope. Midweek neuron holiday. Never has there been such rendered skin a-clicking. It was heroin all morning. Teeth clenching, jaw dropping, eyes wide, cable tied, fluttering, and consequently shut. Your show starts in 4 incremental seconds. Upgrade now. Save your work. Fade to white. Hold that rubbery thought. Buy the edges. Break the bank. Win all over and over again. Every day is all day. Hits begin in 3 more lines. Herons all morning, like flying rooftops over bright blue bays. Blinding, breathtaking, authenticated. Choose a vision. Take the quiz. How many do you see? Rate us, bake us, show us, skip the ads. Your video starts in 1 more crystal meg. Look, remember, look out, react, tap, keep tapping, drop the needle into the groove song. This next poem imagines what it might be like to die in 10 or 20 years. Wrapped in this kind of artificial intelligence technology. This is Dying 2.0. 1 second dead, technically alive, my algorithmic mother, a jewel creation, yes, tenderly coded, yes, every frequency of love dialed in, smooth, Vermeer skin, yes, my HD father in burnt umber browns, a Rembrandt self-portrait, wrinkled lines of charcoal bitmaps, my mother's holographic eyes, prisms of fabricated rays of love, yes, sweeter than any strawberry, dream lady of rainbows, of saturated color, brightening inside, limitless lemon yellow love, lifting me off my first bicycle seat, her purple touch scruffing my neck, pink hold of her hand, even as I am dying. Her merciful expression framed in strands of colorized Donna Reed gold. Yes, it was a wonderful life. Backlit, organic, light-emitting diodes lit against the obsidian night. Loved and forgiven, yes, I know this blue hour. Blue sunset, yes, blue, rendered bluer than anything I could have imagined. So the next one is, the next sequence is, deals with what I call the paradox of happiness. And that paradox is that we try to summon it, and happiness can't be summoned. And the harder I try to summon it, the more less likely I am to get any of it. This is Jersey City. It was probably the gentle tapping of brakes, the way a car will come to rest at a red light in the rain. On the corner, there was a green and white go-go mart appearing in the rainwater light of my windshield. A night store, open 24 hours. And I was happy to see the store. The items inside, crayon bright, set out in rows by a red smock woman working alone, her outline melting in the drizzle of my window, minding her store at night. Her freezers, her magazines, her lotto machine, her coffee pots, all quiet and still. She was a red smock woman, her store, a fluorescent rainbow cast across the splashwater street, and I was happy to be stopped waiting on this flawed corner of paradise as the light was turning green. This one has a companion poem on the next page, Museography, which takes its cue from Elizabeth Bishop's famous poem about moose, the moose. And it's a sort of a catalog of happiness. This is Museography. On that meteor shower night, you nudged my hotel robe open, the way a moose will nose the gate of a farmer's fence, with antler-like surprise, like when you told me the 5 crazy things you believed in most, and 5 moose appeared on the crest of an apple tree hill. And sometimes we'll be recalling those strange, hard days, and you'll work gently with moose awareness to suck the sugar from a maple reminiscence. As when I was writing the poem, Jersey City, and a moose looked up from behind the counter of a rain-washed 7-Eleven to show herself in full. I like to do dramatic poems, and this one is about boxing. There's a boxing match we're going to go into right now, and to me, it's a wonderful metaphor for the way aging just continues to beat you up. And so put on your raging bull imagination. This is St. Nicholas Arena, New York City, 1951. 4th round, right cross blow, lonely, soundless, stranded, spent. I had that punch. Had it 10 years gone by. I could turn a man into a sponge of blood, rumpled, broken flesh under the lights, put him down in naked, lonely pain, his crown taken. I had that punch, had it. 5th round now, legs gone soft, knees adrift, air. I need more air, lungs gone, my feet waxed, melting. What's this, weakness, pain, right here? Round 6 now, stand up, 10 years gone by, showed me the ropes. I'll be the champ, I told them, taking punches, rights and lefts. I had it, each year a bit harder, I thought. I will do this, or I will do that. Now, gone, softened my head, flattened my feet, boom and boom again. Death's electric kiss, wobbles the world within, smells like burned wires. That's the punch, that's it. Skin deserting, brain befogging, blade dullened, soft, no getting up. People standing, people in unseen rows, shades, harder to tell, sounding in dim light, colorless. Time, you cold tuxedo devil, waving me down under the lights. Thank you. And let's go and try something different. Yeah, let's try something different. How about the tale of an aging hippie and a look back at the 60s, okay? This is Men's Department Flashback. All right, I'm rummaging a pile of Ralph Lauren polo shirts, and I glimpse this old guy in a mirror, and he's got to be in his 70s, and he's wearing Levi's. Levi's! As if he's some Haight-Ashbury hippie looking to score a dime bag of weed. And I'll bet he's got a blues harp in his pocket that he pretends to play, because this guy just wants to catch the eye of some Farmer John-clad hippie chick in oversized overalls, earth shoes, and hair parted down the middle, dancing with a dazed, hallucinogenic smile. like the girl he'd seen at the airplane concert in multicolored granny glasses and a long string of Indian beads around her neck, who was there with Eric the head after they made love, not war, in the back of his Volkswagen bus with its psychedelic posters, burning incense, and the little red lovemaking light that had a funny way of flickering once the bus got rocking. But now, the Levi's guy is gone. Must have wandered off somewhere, as I was picking out a pair of Calvin Klein mini briefs. Well, we have a lot of poets here, and so let's do a little poet humor. This one comes from, this is a poem about the automatic nervous system of a poet. This is the other side of mind. Even as you're trying to decide where to break this line, I'm right here, guiding this morning's coffee down the twisting tubes of your long digestive tract. Even as you're still working on the title, I'm blinking your two eyes, keeping them always watered. And as you gaze into your screen with that furrowed brow and scrunched up face, even in meditation, counting breaths, here I am again, actually making you breathe so that you can indulge your front lobe fantasy of total loss of self. Even later, when you go out there reading this aloud, before a room full of neocortex thinkers, wildly looking at watches, rustling in chairs, and otherwise trying to understand what's going on, there I'll be with all the other silent brains, working to keep everyone at a steady 37 centigrade degrees. And even now, as you wonder how this poem will be received, and wondering if you'll get it published, and dare say, dreaming of a possible push card, here I am, as always, ready to give your lower abdomen a little squeeze to let you know it's time to pee. Automatic nervous system, we got them. Everybody's got them. This is, and I'll wind up this part with, well, my hair turned 72 today. I celebrate you in mild shampoo and ravish you in sweet conditioner. For all we've seen, my stalwart strands, from baby oil to beetle bob, from grease and goo to just for men. We've watched the continental drift of bald spots forming, work to keep this head together. The who we are, this coif, this style, our way of not being someone else. God is said to know your very number. Does he grieve for those impaled on bristled brush or caught between the teeth on some indifferent comb? You, my loyal companion, I praise and thank for not running off the stage too soon, for tirelessly framing my unsteady face and not forcing me to wear a hat. Okay, and I really think that it's very important, and this book's got a bunch of poems on climate change. And I think it's a very important thing. If I can find, there we go. I think it's a very important thing because as creatives and as artists, we haven't, I know I haven't been able to convince emotionally these people what's going on. We don't have a lot of time left. And I think it's really, you have to find that way because it's an important thing. But anyway, this is last summer. In those final days, a determined rush of wildflowers bloomed in galaxies over red clover cowgrass and comets of black-eyed Susans from a void in the asphalt of a scarred parking lot. An outburst already fading for good. The starry point of each petal vanishing in flailing trails of light, diminished, as if the things words mean were leaving. And I have a couple more. Let's see. There we go. As we were saying goodnight, this is a poem that I think Monica mentioned was nominated for a science fiction prize. But it won the Rattle Poets Respond weekend competition 3 years ago. It was Halloween, and this is a haunted house poem, so I think it was appropriate. As we were saying goodnight, Someone noticed a television left on in one of the rooms. So a couple of guys headed upstairs, and it was reassuring to know it was under control, but noises kept coming down the hallway, and floors began groaning with the feet of searching people, turning on lights and looking into rooms, and sometimes shouting, "I've got it," which some people believed, while others stayed more skeptical, patting the walls and opening doors, like the young woman who discovered a bathtub she couldn't stop overflowing, or the lawyer who came upon a stove with lit burners and an oven leaking gas, and they twisted the knobs right and left to no effect as the air got thicker with the smell of distant smoke, even as we climbed to higher flights, where we stumbled upon a floor of mousetraps so dense you couldn't breathe without setting them off. So we stood frozen together, and I bid good night to Jim and Martha Winkler, who were lost in thought as they considered the situation under the remorseful gaze of a wall-mounted moose. As one by one the lights went dark, and the glint dimmed in the glass eye of a stuffed monkey, as the moon escaped the only window. Got two more left. Thank you. And this is a poem. This is a topic you don't see a lot of poems about, the heat death of the universe. But it's a way of remembering we should love and be grateful for every minute we're alive, because this is what's going to happen afterwards. This is the poem Afterwards. In time, there will be no houses, and with them, no garages, and with them, no four square windows with the smell of putty and glass. They will not be there. No oily odor of gasoline on cement in the shady space beneath the car. None of it will be. And there will be no coming home from a late night drive. And with that, no speeding cars or night-defying headlights hovering inches above the ground on multiple lane freeways. That will not be there. And with them will go the roadside diners, and with them, there'll be no griddle cakes, no burned coffee and chipped white cups, just the black, no longer hot, holding all the secrets. And I always end with this one because it's the last poem of the book. And I was in this city of Monovasia in Greece a couple years ago. And it's on the coast. And as I was walking along the coastline, I could see the city in the distance. And I saw the lights of that city, and this poem just came to me, and I picked out my phone, and I just spoke it into my phone. I don't think I changed a word of it. But when I was done, when I reached the town, I said, I think that poem is going to be the last poem in Screens. And to honor it, I always do it. I always treat it as my last poem, and this will be the last poem that I'll do tonight. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for listening to me and for supporting poetry. This is Monovasia Nocturne. Drawn by the lights of a distant city, I followed the shadows to a place where I was welcomed, as if returning to a home I'd never left. The cabarets were filled with blue smoke and barrel-house piano. The men held their women with open arms. Lovers exchanged fingers. I took a partner who pulled me to her rhythm. I couldn't find the plot. There was no antagonist. The moon and stars gave in to the mountains shouldering the night. Thank you very much.
Henry, thank you. That was just wonderful. I love how creative and dramatic and moving your work is. So thank you. I'm going to introduce our next poet, Greg McBride, who is someone I've known, I think, for something like 20 years. I met Greg at the first poetry reading I ever did, where we read together. And this was in the Tacoma Park, DC Library, a series run by the late Rhonda Wilford. And I've had a warm spot for Greg ever since. Greg took a long route to poetry, working as an Army photographer during the Vietnam War, and then as a public service lawyer in DC for 30 years. He started writing poetry in his 50s, and a number of years later founded the Innisfree Poetry Journal, which is still going strong, and Greg is still at its helm as editor. He's the author of 3 poetry collections: Porthole, published by Briary Press in 2012, which won the Liam Rector First Book Prize for Poetry. His newest book, Guest of Time, published by Pond Press in 2023, and a chapbook, Back of the Envelope, published in 2009. Greg's been published in many distinguished journals, including the Alaska Quarterly, Bellevue Review, Boulevard, Gettysburg Review, River Styx, Rhino, Selma Gundy, and the Southern Review. He's been the recipient of many honors, including the Boulevard Emerging Poet Prize, grants in poetry from the Maryland State Arts Council. And I was thrilled to see my friend Greg McBride was one of the poets included in the Best American Poetry of 2025. Eleanor Wilmer writes of Greg's work. These candid, sensitive, affecting poems follow, like rainbow's gravity, the arc of a long life. With a fine ear for the music that releases full meaning in language, an attentive eye for the resonant detail, Greg McBride's poems take us with him here to elsewhere. And Rick Barrett writes, in his exact witnessing of childhood's vividness, war's shock, and the dynamics of love, Greg McBride reminds us of the redress that poetry can accomplish. In poems that are troubling and redemptive, McBride shows the progress of a life through time is as beautiful as it is painful, intimately eloquent, even as it participates in the worst moments of our history. My own experience of Greg's work is the remarkable way he uses plain language, spare and tightly controlled, to reveal details that take his reader to a specific place, redolent with feeling and memory, with nuggets of wisdom casually invoked, and if you're lucky, a subtle, dry humor delivered on the side. So it's my very great pleasure to invite my friend and poet, Greg McBride, to the mic.
First time in my life I've ever moved the microphone up. I was ill, and I'm having more problems with my voice than usual. So if you can't hear, raise your hand or wave at me or something. Henry seemed to establish a bit of a theme for tonight, which involved aging. And as it happens, I turned 80 this year. And I'm working on a poem right now, so I'm going to read it to you. The day begins. No alarm jolts him into this new day. He will not walk through overcoat cold. The subway will not come for him. His old desk downtown, no longer encumbered with serious concerns for him. Now alone, he loves the dawn of the new in the quiet of rising awareness. The transition from the story of the night, its commingled confusion. The pin gave his team a win. The mortar round blew up the tent next to his. The girl, Katie, could not wait for him. To the story of this new day, when he's briefly unbeset by concern. He burrows into the pillow. He watches filtered morning light sneak across the stolid wall, the way a waxing gibbous moon consumes our shadow. He braces against the cold, the bed in disarray, after night struggles for comfort, his leg, his neck, unhappy knees. He rolls to the edge, struggles for equilibrium, and his left foot fumbles for its sleep, which resists his fungal toes. His spotted hands tremble lightly. He tries the old athletic rise at an angle favoring his low back, with an assist from the table bedside, then frets that the step onto the throw rug presents another cause for concern. Breakfast and paper await. Maybe the gnats, bats have awakened. He's heedful of many concerns, the pills and laundry and meals. Mainly, he worries, what will he do during this new and long and vacant day? Let's see. Actually, I've written 2 poems on the subject of going off to war, and I'm looking for the second one. It's called The Home Front. He pumped his fist toward the arcing sky of National Airport, another diminutive desk-bound pattern, exhorting another soldier's son to war, playing a role, a screen-bound Cagney, reality smoldering at home. My mother pleated her lips. Her hand trembled a wave, slowed by denial, then sunk by the weight of despair. Once aboard, I thought of them at home. He to bed early with Churchill and Twain. She in the den with Saturday Review, drinking the hours, anesthetized into the next afternoon. Then the long worry over the Pacific, avoiding the fitful eyes of others, as the passage from family to war passed in a dazzle. The way a mortar shell streaks through the long lull between barrel burst and the shuttered rending of somebody's home. I've got a number of Vietnam poems in here. This one's called Back in the World, in quotes. You've all heard that term. That's what we all talked about in Vietnam. Back in the world, implying, of course, that where we were was fanciful in some way. It wasn't a real place, but as you'll see. Back in the world, what we slurred in passing, quieting unvoiced longing, till it garnished, then ladened the everyday, tasteless, hardly there, in a where that seemed hardly real, blurred, as if we'd been cast as bit players in a movie for which suspension of disbelief came hard. A movie glaring and roaring of choppers and bombers and bombs, and the whistle of shards making a soundtrack of the absurd in the heat and tiny stench, jungle stench, the stench cloud of cyclos, a persistent other that a lifetime later still shades and crowds their world, its lore, this world, which no longer resembles the world we longed for when young and other. was quite a character. And not always for the good. In any event, he, well, I'll read the poem. Sizes. Actually, he was a big guy compared to me. He's only 5'6", but he was huge. And to me, he was very broad and strong and athletic and powerful and mechanical. I'm none of those things. Much more like my fragile mother. Sizes. My sister found our father's ring, turquoise faded, sullied silver plate. It stopped my breath. 30 years ago, I took it from his cold hand. A big man, he never took it off. Not when he dug, or swung, or swam, or smeared on huckleberry jam, or held a cribbage peg, or gripped a favorite pitching wedge, then fudged a score again. With feeling, she placed it on my palm, we, his keepers. I slipped it on. It hung, slack, wanting more. It stung. Once the shoes, now this. Gonna have to do this. And I should have mentioned at the start that this new book is called The Guest of Time, a memoir and poem. So it's much about my family and my life otherwise. My wife and I have been together nearly 50 years. Here's a poem about us called Strangers. Morning. We stand on the front porch, looking out over the familiar brick and green, and farther on to the sun-frosted horizon. Our English boxwood line and scent the path below, so broad in their old age that we must sidle our own whitened selves against the stiff-leaved narrow. The familiar has grown strange. The way our children grew in stealth, day by day, into their own becoming. I remember our first night, Luigi's swarthy waiters bearing steaming bowls of pasta and puttanesca, and you, a stranger to me among friends, bent in the remnants of beautiful sorrow, alone, like me, alone in the time of desire. We are not as we were, and I wonder, can our amended selves learn to live well, one with the other, now, when learning comes less easily? I summon something like faith that this path will lead to possibility. I take your hand in mine. Come, I want to find you again. Kiss me, I whisper through my greed. I lost a close friend and mentor 13 years ago, Ed Zimmerman, and I wrote a poem for him called Diminished. It was a good thing to tell his story with our stories, each of us one thin strand of who and what he was, and he, for me, a keeper of the best of who I am. But keepers fade away, one, then one, a piece of me tucked under an arm. His story, my story, that intersection now closed. I turn on to Woodside Parkway, take the detour, and hope that when I get home, someone will know who I am. I happen to have with me a copy of the Best American Poetry with it 2025. I might as well read you that poem. I can remember where it is. This poem is called Know Thyself. I'm an old man now, getting to know myself. My marbles still neatly arranged like my taws and cat's eyes in Quaker Oats boxes mother saved for me. But this morning, scratching an itch, I noticed that my wrist is tiny, tiny telling lies. So I checked a leg, my mighty quadriceps, which have powered my life of runs and matches, so many steps, and was appalled. Now, there have been hints of a certain smallness since starting out at 6 pounds. But this, what can only be called a boy-sized leg, flexing in a failing crop of white leg hair, gave me a start. I'm ridiculous, it seems. Do others know? I think of fun with my wife in bed when I'd whisper, "Go ahead, cop a feel of my massive thigh." Always italicized. And she'd ooh and ah while stroking my strong, bowed legs, my grandpa legs. She was in on the joke, I only sort of. I've run for miles, lifted weights, done squats, climbed up and down stairs, but it seems I've been gilding a miniature lily. It seems this self I've carried through time and place has been poorly housed all along. My advice to young people, as you make your way through life, check now and then to be sure you know who you are. You may be smaller than you thought. Do I have time for any more? Okay. Well, I was a jock most of my life. I was a very successful wrestler, actually. And I wrote a poem about it. Whistled Alive. Late fall, the world again closing in upon itself. Nights extend, days stall, and the chill takes hold of Pennsylvania. We hibernate under artificial light in the practice room, where wrestling coaches bark enduring truths, then whistle us alive in this rite reserved for the quick, the strong, the sinewy light, doggedly wary. This must be some kind of love, this shutting out, shutting in, this drain of self into self, more weight to shoulder through our hunger. We shuffle and tender sugar feet. He's a mirror me. I claw, he claws. Heads butt, hands seize, sweat slick muscle. I collar him, rough a forearm hard to his clavicle. Stutter step, balance, balance is all. I am stronger, faster. So say tight grips, the hurried brawl. I flash to a leg. He drops to splay his weight over me, the way soggy nautical rope might feel. Naughty, tentacular, doughy. He grabs my head, wheels on the axis he makes of me. His strength meets mine. I parry his every move, each the other reified. The mild sorrow of blood rises, warm in my mouth. He's on his back. I power down, but he rears unstoppably from the mat. Sudden loss, sudden win. We practice both again, again. No winner here, it's him. Myself, I pin. All right, I'm being allowed to read one more poem. So, I'll close with another Vietnam poem, I guess. This one's called Chow Time. From out of the perfect dark, incoming just past midnight, whistling mortars weave walk through the camp, dropping luck and boom onto this hooch or that. In the morning mess, we're sullen, shuffling for food spooned out of mermite cans. Most silent, some mumblers hardly heard, hardly there. One harbors jarred ears in ears, another spent cartridges. We live the real, unreal, every day, X out at night. Once down to double digits, we think our luck may hold, after all. If patty stench and heat, dense and mean, don't roast us first. We nurse word wounds that piss us off, and hard hammered wounds from shrapnel and dings on the job. And all is shades of dirt in this foreign scrub of land, and our faces gray, our shoulders stooped in olive fray. We clutch tin pots, hot with rations. One guy mutters in a semi-southern slur, "Ain't no shit like this back in the world." Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. That's marvelous and very affecting. Next up is our open mic. So I'm going to call Luther Jack to come here and to run it for us.
So this is the open mic segment, and thank you again, Greg and Henry, for bearing your souls and sharing your work with us. Remember the rule for the open mic: 1 poem, 1 page, 1 + 1 = 2. And our first reader is Phil McQueen. Please welcome him.
And what I'm about to read, the narrator is fictitious, but everything described really happened. It's called Signal from the Future. We didn't know what it meant, this teenager from St. Louis with diseases that only the very elderly or those with end-stage cancers get. I remember it was 1968, a big war was raging, and LBJ was dropping out. We didn't know how to help the youth. He said his father died the same way, but I don't think any of us checked on this. When the youth died, the autopsy report said his anus had injuries consistent with abuse. But who? Why? Years went by and new diseases emerged. So many people needed help. The first shock was non-A, non-B in the blood supply. In 1976, the old soldiers started dying. Then a new tick-spread sickness right in New England, of all places. Late 1970s, rumors of something called dwindles and junkies, but nobody saved any samples from them. Well, who wants to deal with junkies? Then 1981 came the Padimidine cluster. It was just 5 people, but they all died of the same type of pneumonia that claimed the youth. Then came a report of strange cancer in young people, the same type of cancer the youth had. Now it was sickeningly clear what 1968 meant. A dragon was laying in ambush, and we had stared unknowingly right into its face.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you. Our next reader is Mazda. Gamma.
This poem came out last year in terrain.org. All my life, I never once sliced into a pomegranate. It was delivered to me open and pretty, turned up, pithy, with fresh juice, just starting to traverse the inner white flesh. All I can ask now is why? Why wasn't I given any fruit, but most of all, this fruit, to hold in my hand with all its inner potential? Still, I buy a lone Raman when in season and leave it unopened, watch it shrivel to a dry ruby rind, then collapse in on itself, like a little Arab city falling across a century into ruin.
Thank you, Rashka. And our next reader is Ellen Cole.
This is a very new poem. It's about my brother who passed away in 2024. Night ghosts. Even when I'm awake, I see how your face peers out of every corner. 18 months now since your death. Your voice still sounds like Dad's in my mind's ear. My eyes shut, a white shape drifts across my eye field, pale puppet flapping through the dark. Is it you, Wayne? Your words mumbling through the haze. Such different men you were, you and Dad, both straight arrows. Then those rare times you'd do something our parents disapproved, a certain squint, a coy laugh for me, who understood. A banked flame, your mental illness, creeps after me. I tried to take care of you after our parents died. Those years of agitation, sleepless nights, that flare subside and bloom again. Then last year, a heart attack, without me there to gentle your passing. I never could fear you, even when your madness screamed and bucked and walked full-bodied in open air. Who was I to tell you what is and isn't true, as if I knew?
Thank you, Ellen. And our final reader of the evening, Eileen Ivy Sirota.
So this, I guess, will be ending on a somewhat lighter note. It's about an animal, but I think in it I'm sort of playing with looking at human qualities through this animal. And it's called The Cat. My cat thinks she's the cat's meow. Her yowl's sweeter than even Pavarotti. My cat thinks she's the cat's whiskers, certain no Van Dyke mutton chops or soul patch could match her furry refinement. My cat thinks she's the cat's pajamas, more elegant in the buff than any runway hussy swathed in French couture. She's a model of self-assurance, a monster of self-esteem.
Thanks to all our readers for our open mic. Our next open mic will be whenever our next live event will be, but here's Ellen to close it out for the evening.
Thank you, Luther, for running the open mic, and all the poets who read, thank you for coming up and being brave enough to share with us. And also thank you to our very wonderful featured poets tonight, Greg and Henry. It was great to hear you read. Michael, are you still here? Thank you for the beautiful music that always sets the tone. And also, thank you, Karen Alanier and the WordWorks for sponsoring our program. And Majda, thank you for co-hosting with me. It's always a delight to work with you. And Henry, thanks to you for not only being a fantastic poet, but for being the technical guru who makes everything work. And Luther, the same to you when you're the one who's on duty. And thanks also to my fellow co-hosts, Claire McGough, Luther Jett, Henry Crawford, Majda Gama, for the work you do creating our programming. And also, thank you to our faithful audience for being here month after month. And if you're not here month after month, maybe you should consider it. You are the reason we're here. If you want to extend your enjoyment of our poets' work, you can purchase their books. The link is on the chat, and tell others about our series. I hope you'll join us for our next very exciting program on Monday, February 2nd, with the music starting at 7:15 and the reading itself starting at 7:30, featuring Pulitzer Prize winner Diane Seuss and poet Brandel DeBravo. I know you won't want to miss this program. Make sure you've registered online on our Café Muse website so you receive information on the event and get the Zoom link. And the programs where we have poets who are very well known, often we have a lot of people registering, so don't register late because sometimes, and don't arrive late, really is what I mean to say, because we have a limited number of people who can come into the Zoom. Happy New Year, everyone, with our fingers crossed for 2026. Have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you again soon. Good night.